All right, guys, we are officially back at Real Street Performance, back at home base here in Florida. It's been a crazy couple weeks. We have been all over Florida. I did a huge refresh on everything in the engine and most of the things in the trans. We did a personal best at the last event, so that's pretty awesome. We're pretty happy with that. And there's just been so much that I have to go over. So like I mentioned, we have been doing some crazy stuff here, not only on the car, but just life in general. These past couple weeks have been literally insane. But we have a whole bunch of good stories. We have a bunch of good progress on the car, not only at its current level that's not all the way turned up, but promising stuff for the racing just moving forward. So we have a whole bunch of good stuff. I'm gonna sit down because there's a lot to go over. We're gonna dive into it right now. So before we actually dive into it, I just wanna take a quick second and show you guys some of the new shirts. So the last couple of weeks we did do this order on these new t-shirts. Extremely comfortable, true to size. This is an adult large. Nice design here on the back, and then the SB tuning in the front. So everybody who's been asking for a shirt, now's your chance. Hit the link down below or just go to pablomini.com and you guys can see the shirts as well as a couple other stickers. I also have my race program posted there, and I plan to do some blog posts moving forward over there to show you guys some like behind the scenes on the car. But check it out, make sure to get a shirt, show some support, and let's dive into it. So I haven't been really doing a lot of videos here on YouTube as much as I've been doing shorter form content on Instagram and Facebook, so I apologize for the long form updates, but here we are. So last couple of events that we went to, we were testing a whole bunch of new components, and actually this last one, Hday, was this huge spiel of a whole bunch of new components and new engine and refresh transmission, a whole bunch of different things. But before we talk about Hday, let's go back and talk about the previous event, which was at Bradenton Motorsports here in Florida, not too far, about 2.5 hours from us. But the event itself was the reunion. So going into the reunion, we ran a 950 index. Now the previous event to that, we were running a 10.0 index because the class that we set the car up for, Nitro versus the World, for some reason it got canceled or didn't get ran at all at the Orlando event, which is really weird because I thought the reunion was supposed to run Nitro versus the World as well. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it was a class based mainly in nitromethane all motor cars, and those cars typically ran around an 850 to a 9.0 range with some exaggerations on both sides, some a little faster, some a little slower. But the point of that class was to introduce those all motor cars with turbo cars at a certain weight and a certain turbo size without it having to be too crazy. So it was basically like an 850 to 9.0 class, and that's exactly where we wanted this car to live. So we set the car up for that. Weight is pretty close to that. We're still a little bit overweight, and it's a 6466 next gen turbo, so that would also yield us around that range of what would work well and not be too crazy for the class without having to go a little bit heavier. So we set the car up for that. We went out to that Orlando event. They ended up not running it, and we just had to dial it back to a 10.0 index. The car was super happy. Just 18 pounds of boost yielded us a 10.0, so we were literally super happy with those results. 18 pounds of boost, the car was flying, and it was just completely fine. For the reunion, which was the event right before Hday, we decided to turn it up just a hair and run the 950 index. Kenobi! We're going racing today, Papi. Hello, wife.
Hi.
Bradenton Motorsports, here we come. We had a good strategy going in, but soon into the second round of qualifying, we realized that the dog teeth on the dog box itself were killing themselves for some reason, and I think I've addressed that in the refreshes that I did before this last event, but it was impossible to go into second gear. It was completely locking me out. So pulled the trans apart, realized that it was grenaded, second gear's dog teeth. This was after round 3 of qualifying, and I had to try to source a replacement part. I couldn't find one, so we ended up getting the old one out of the trans from several months ago, which was also in bad shape, but I figured, hey, if I'm gonna do something, I might as well just try it with something that's slightly less bad and be able to try to race rather than not being able to race at all. 8 a.m. We're about to seal the case, and I was expecting to see this type of wear on second, this type of carnage. Second gear got a little chewed up, not as bad as the slider section of it. So we got that replacement part in, pulled the trans out at like midnight, and then the next morning by 6 or 7, we were at the track with the replacement parts, and before fourth round of qualifier, Peter and I hustled and put the trans back together, and we got it onto the track. 10 a.m. We just got done. They're calling our classes up in just a minute. They just called 1150 and 1050 index. We're waiting for 950 index to be called up, but just in the nick of time. A couple band-aids on a few things, but we made it happen. Going into Q4, I rushed a couple things and I didn't realize I didn't have my clutch delay valve on, because I've been racing the car with that and I'm kind of not reliant on it, but I'm expecting it to be on. And I fat fingered something, I didn't turn it on, and I went to launch, and with a clutch delay valve, you basically drop the clutch and the valve does the work. So that's how I was racing it, and I dropped the clutch, not realizing that it was off, and it broke an axle. So Q4, wasted. We hustle with another axle. I bring replacements typically. I threw one in, and then last second, we had like 2 minutes to spare. We jump into the lanes for E1, and I go to do a pass, and mind you, this is the first pass that we have for the replacement parts in the transmission. We don't know if it's gonna work. We don't know if it's gonna work or if it's not. So I put a scramble button on the steering wheel to see if I could add a little more boost. I think I added like 7% duty cycle off of a button, and that's something that you hold, and then when you let off, it goes back to the original map or the original duty cycle that you commanded in the car. So there was like a path to try to make a little more power if you needed to, and I definitely needed to, because once we launched, first gear was good. I go to grab second with that replacement used second gear, and our fear of it not working was a reality. It didn't go into second at all. So at that point, I super short shift into third. Get into third gear, way low RPM. I hit the scramble button and I start catching back up. I'm pulling on, the guy's way ahead of me at this point. I start pulling forward, I'm getting close to him, but unfortunately it was too little too late, and he won that round, so I was out of it for that event. So because, in my opinion, because of that low RPM scramble and that low RPM shift into third, there was a lot of added load to the car. So in the log, I noticed the trace of coolant for the coolant pressure just started to increase a little bit more than what we're used to seeing. Typically when racing this car on a hot day, I'll see around maybe 13 to 15 PSI of coolant pressure as like a baseline. And that'll go one way or the other depending on the heat and how the temperature is, and a couple other variables, if I have the fans on or not. But at the end of that pass, I think I saw 22 pounds of coolant pressure. So at that point I knew, okay, well, we didn't hurt something because I was able to finish the race, and I drove it back into the pits, and then we made it back onto the trailer, brought it back into the shop. But I knew that there was starting to be some maybe wear, maybe the head gasket was getting old or something of that fashion. So I thought it was time to change at least the head gasket, service the rest of the engine, and then go through the components like that. That led me to then tear everything apart the next day once we got back here at the shop. And we actually made a really cool YouTube video for the Real Street Performance channel, so I'll put that like somewhere here on the screen and a link down below if you guys want to check it out. We completely tore apart the engine, checked some of the components, did like an analysis on it, and a complete refresh. So moving forward, we'd have a really nice fresh engine to be able to start racing again. So everything worked out really well on that. We got the engine started a couple days after that with just a few days to spare before Hday. And we did some ignition sync on the fuel tech software, and then without any time to even go into the dyno or go to the drag strip, I said, all right, let's pack it up. We have to drive all the way to Maryland. Let's get up there and try to see what we can do with the car. And man, it was a crazy experience. We drove up completely raining. It was raining the whole drive up. We get there Thursday night, technically Friday morning. It was like 4 a.m. Friday. We go into the Airbnb, we check in, we sleep for like an hour and a half. We jet to the track. We wanted to be one of the first people at the track as soon as they opened so we could park and get a nice spot. A huge ordeal. If you guys went to Hday, you know. They were parking us in the mud at the very back of the track. It was crazy. We ended up getting my truck stuck, the trailer stuck, the car was almost stuck. I said, screw this, I'm gonna find another solution. So a buddy of mine, Kevin, GSP Machining, shout out to you, bro. He was actually in the pits a little bit closer to the staging lanes than we were, and he was on a full concrete pad. I was driving by trying to see if I had a spot or if I could find a spot, and he was like, nah bro, right here, just pull up next to me, we'll do this together, we'll kind of share a spot. And thank God that he did, because the back of the track was literal mud. We ended up having to use a four-wheeler to get my trailer unstuck. We had another truck pull my truck out, and after a crazy ordeal of several hours being drenched in rain and mud, we finally got everything situated, and we were good to go. Friday got completely canceled. It was supposed to be Friday testing, one round of qualifier as well on Friday, then Saturday all-day qualifiers, and Sunday eliminations. That became Friday completely canceled because of the rain. It was pouring all day, so I understand completely. So move on to Saturday. We get there really early. Since we couldn't tech in on Friday because of the rain, we ended up doing that Saturday morning. Throughout the tech-in process, they were getting the track ready. Since it had rained so long, they had to do a lot of prep for it and get it all fixed up. So Saturday morning, completely taken by the tech process. Mother Nature, those kind of things, I completely understand. Then Saturday afternoon, we get called into the staging lanes at like 1 p.m. or 1:30. And my God, these all-wheel drive cars love to brake. Unfortunately, there were a whole bunch of breakages and a whole bunch of things that went on during Hday Saturday. And after 5.5 hours of being in the staging lane, I kid you not, 5.5 hours, they ended up calling it for the rest of the day. It was like 7 p.m. or something. There was a light drizzle, and they said, all right, well, given all the breakage and given the drizzle, we're just gonna call it. Come back tomorrow. You're going into maybe one round of qualifier, maybe, and then if not, straight into eliminations. So we went in that next morning, Sunday, we're now on the third day of not having any test on the fresh engine, the refresh transmission, or any of the stuff that we did to it recently. We're like, all right, well, let's go ahead and try to run it with what it used last year for a 950 pass. I put a similar tune-up that I had in it for what I ran at FL2K. I think it was like a 940 something fully on the gas, and that was obviously with a different turbocharger. This is now a Precision 6466 next gen and a totally refreshed engine, but I figured we'd be somewhat close. So I put that boost table in. I pulled some of the duty cycle off the top, so it should have gone a little slower. And to our surprise, dude, it went a 9.0 at 159 on the dot, dude. It is freaking boogieing. Didn't expect it to go that fast. Honestly, expected it to go a little slower since I took some out, but man, it's moving now. It's doing really good. That was our one qualifier. I didn't expect to go that fast, but I was happy that we did. Then they said, all right, well, you don't have any more testing. They're out of hours for the day. Let's go into eliminations. I pulled some boost out of the top. I think after top end of second, I pulled that whole section down, and we were ready to run into first round of eliminations. After that first pass, which was our only qualifier, I did notice that when I stepped on the brakes were super hard and the RPM was super up, so I figured there was some boost leak of some type, especially around the brake booster section, since this still uses power brakes like the factory has. I think that it's a comfort thing. I don't see any huge advantage to not having the power brakes, so I've always kept them on. But the little plastic check valve that keeps the boost out of the brake booster but allows vacuum to be pulled from the brake booster broke. So going into first round of eliminations, I had no more power brakes, and I haven't raced the car like that in a long time. I've done some testing in the past, but I've always liked the power brake feel. So I ended up just plugging the manifold with a bolt, just tightening it down with a clamp to try to keep air from leaking out, like any boost leaking. And now I had to race it in manual brakes. Going into E1, then I pulled some boost out of the car after the top end of second, then also third and fourth. I pulled some boost out, and I said, all right, this should yield us somewhere closer to 950 since the other pass it went 9.0. And it got us really close. I launched, we were right there, me and the other guy, and I led off at like the 1,000 foot, and I was still cooking pretty quick, so I stood on the brakes, and I still broke out. It went a 938, I believe, and the other guy broke out as well, so we were both a little too fast for that class. But since the power brakes were no longer there, and I'm not used to slamming on the brakes with it manual brakes, it just wasn't enough braking. So unfortunately, I lost in first round, but holy crap, we came back with a new PB and some great data. We now know that on the old tired engine, on 18 pounds, it went 10.0. So now with refresh, maybe 17 or so, it'll go that same 10.0. And then on roughly 31 pounds of boost, 30-ish pounds of boost, it tapers down to, it went 9.0 at 159. And then it made like 26 pounds of boost, I think, 25-ish, and it went a 938 with letting off around the 1,000 foot. So guys, it's super promising. This new engine refreshed is working really great. I'm super happy with it. There were some small tune changes that I did for it to get it to be a little happier now, since it's more efficient. The engine is basically running better, so there are a few changes, but nothing crazy. And just super excited to see what's next. Speaking of which, the next event is actually coming up, not this weekend. Right now it's Saturday as I'm recording this. It's actually going to be the weekend that you're watching this, which is end of April. We're going to Streetcar Takeover. It's actually here in Florida, so that's awesome, not a huge drive. It's at the Gainesville track. I've been there before. I've never raced there personally, so I'm super excited for that. It's a nostalgic NHRA track, and it's really cool to see that Streetcar Takeover is going over there, and we're just super excited to go out there and race. That being said, we got some small stuff to do on the car. I noticed that on the brake booster there is some paint basically corroding off, which means that there was a brake fluid leak somewhere around the brake booster, and we did see that there was some saturation around the master cylinder. So there's a combination of things for the brakes that we need to refresh. I have a replacement brake booster and a replacement master cylinder as well that I'll be putting on, and a metal check valve for the brakes. Instead of doing another plastic one that might break, nice little metal unit, should work well. So in the next couple days I'm going to start refreshing that, and then hopefully be ready by Monday or Tuesday. And if we're able to, I might go testing at the track beforehand, see if we can turn it up a little bit, and then go from there. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share that with y'all about the last few events. I know that it was a lot of talking. Hopefully you guys still enjoyed it, but it was important to get a nice little update for you guys. If you aren't already on the Instagram page or Facebook page, it's Slow Integra on both. Just one word, Slow Integra, and I do a lot more daily updates there, and you guys can stay up to date rather than waiting on a long YouTube video. One last thing, shameless plug, if you guys are interested in a shirt, I still have some left. Please go out and support. If you can get a shirt, awesome. If not, don't even worry about it. But I'm really happy with these, the way that it came out. Super comfortable, super fresh. Especially going into summer, you don't want anything that's really dark colored or something that's a very heavy cotton. So this is a very nice finished shirt, and you won't get all the way down in summer because it's a nice cream color. But thanks for watching guys, we'll see you on the next video, and hopefully at Streetcar Takeover in the next few weeks. Take care.